Okay, first redfin out the way now. There may be another one there. Right, nice cast. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's fairly shallow, so don't necessarily have to let it sink that far before we start retrieving. Okay. Now you got to remember, when you're fishing lures and flies, always fish your lure or your fly right to your feet. I kid you not, your biggest fish of your life will probably come right at your feet one day, okay? Now, got a little bit of a headache here. We've decided to fish this stretch, right? See that log there? That sort of cuts me off through this one coming through here. So what we'll do is we'll just duck down here. Now, this has opened it up just by taking a few steps, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cast along this log, right? Bring it down through here along. Oh, come on! Oh. Okay. I see what's happened. When we got that fish, it put a slight bend in it. Now, this is what we're doing. Show you a little trick with your casting. One thing I do when I cast is, for starters, if you want to save the life of your bail arm clip, right, learn to flick your clip over by hand. It'll save you a lot of running repairs, because normally people like to turn the handle and flick it over. Great way to wear and tear on the reel. Okay, so we'll just get this cast. Just as before it hits the water, grab your spool and turn it over, and what that'll do is that will actually get your lure to flick out so it doesn't get tangled in on itself. So I'll just bring that in there, right in here. Okay, now what we'll do, we haven't even fished that big snag. Oh, that was just a rubbish cast. Wasn't concentrating. Okay, bring that through. We're going to make our way down to a wider stretch of river, and once again there, see, grab my spool, I can control the distance of my cast. Alright, once again flicking the lure out. Now as you can see, I've got my rod tip pointing towards the water. This makes sure, okay, that my lure stays deep. I'll show you a little trick, especially when you're using braid that's got no stretch hormone. If I wind like this, see how it stays down? As soon as I lift my rod tip, it'll come out of the water. That's what you do. While you're retrieving, okay, watch your lure, and that's the beauty of using spinners. You can see the blade usually in the water, okay? Cast out. If you see a snag, 3 to 4 feet before the snag, lift your rod tip. It'll cause your lure to come up, it'll go over your snag, then drop your rod tip. So what you can do is, instead of bringing your lure in along one line, you can actually get it to go up and down and over snags, much like a natural, okay? There's the gap there, beautiful. Hopefully there's a fish there. I'll just let it drop now. Right, beautiful. Okay, now, I'll give you another little tip too. See the end of my fishing rod there? If you want to make really accurate casts, reduce the distance between your rod tip and your lure. Watch. When I go back, I'm using what's called a pendulum cast, okay? I've got control over the lure. Come back, it's moving, and then where I decide to let it go is where it goes. So, if you just have a look, say over there, see where that snag is rounded over the actual water, like the Loch Ness Monster's tail? If I just aim for that and get it just before, see, I can get fairly close to it. Now, that should be a fairly good lie. That V was still moving, right? I felt a bump there. Come on, buddy. Okay. Now, you've got this log, which is the crown of the tree. That one there, there's a little snag sticking out of the water just there, okay? If I go in between that, picking my line here, right, I'm onto it. So, over the snag, beautiful. Let it drop because it looks fairly deep. Right. Oh, that was a bump, folks. Yes, taking it on the drop, but that's okay. What we'll do now, that may well have been a snag too, but I always like to be optimistic with my fishing. See, I don't know whether you can see, you've got the snag that we cast to second last cast, this one, we just cast in between there. Now, cast to the right of it, bearing in mind that there's a snag here. I want to cast in this direction because I'm hoping in that little dark spot there where that leaf is on the water where I'm pointing, there's a perch hiding, okay? So here, once again, target, short distance between my spinner and my rod tip, okay? Control with the left one, beautiful. Here we go. Right, there's my blade working. Okay, now the reason it's not working is because when I hit that twig, or I had that fish hit it, it bent it slightly. You've got to remember, spinners originally when they were devised in America and the UK, they're called inline spinners, which means they spin around a straight axis, in this case, which is the Y. So, a little bit there, okay. Now, what we'll do is, now, that doesn't look like a good area to cast because there's snags in there, okay? So you see all these branches? Right, just to the right of the branch there. Right, bring it down. I only bent that wire on that spinner probably 1 millimetre, and now it's casting perfectly. So